I would like to start by saying thank you very much to Guild Wars 2 for sponsoring this video and giving me the chance to share some footage and information from the upcoming expansion, End of Dragons, which will be released on the 28th of February. So today, we will talk about all the new features and content that will come with End of Dragons that I'm allowed to share with our viewers. All of the footage you will see now are from the events and activities we have done with the ANET devs on the End of Dragon maps. We will start by listing all the new content and features that we know will be released with End of Dragons. And then we will talk in details about each one of them. End of Dragons will come with 4 new regions: the Jade Sea, Qingjie Island, New Kaining City, and the Echovold Wilds. Each one of those maps have its own feel and its own story to tell. You will find a lot of lore details in them, and each one of the maps will have a lot of events and collections and much more we can do. And of course, we will also get a new progress to the story, which will be connected to a lot of details from all of the other chapters we have done for Living Seasons and the previous expansions, and they should also answer some of the questions we are not sure about yet. So if you are someone that cares about lore, this will be very good. We will get a new mount, the Siege Turtle. This is the first combat mount in the game, and also the first one that will allow 2 people to use it. One player that will be responsible for moving the mount around, and another player that will handle the weapons on the Siege Turtle. We also have fishing and skiffs now added to the game. Both of them are going to be a big part, and both of them are very useful, and we will still talk about them in details. Jade Bots are another addition, and this in my opinion will change a few things that we currently do in Guild Wars 2. And especially when we are in the End of Dragons maps, you will instantly feel how insanely useful they are and the amount of potential use we can get out of them. On top of that, we will get 9 new elite specializations for all the 9 classes we have. Each one of them can be tweaked to fit your own playstyle and whatever role you want to play. We get a new guild hall, which is called Isle of Reflection. We get new legendaries for all the current existing weapons. We get new strike missions and much more details we were not allowed to share and did not get a chance to see for ourselves. Now let's start talking about all of that new content and features in detail. We will start with the 4 new maps we will get with End of Dragons. The first thing you will notice is just how amazing and beautiful they look. Everywhere around you, you will appreciate the great work that were done by the design team. And the music in-game that will be playing with those maps work very well with it and helps paint the picture and add to the environment of this map. And as I said earlier, each one of those maps will contribute something different to the lore and overall the story of the expansion. And you will see that in all the detail around you, from how the map looks, to how the NPCs will treat you, to the ambient dialogue between the NPCs and such. It was really well made. And each one of those maps will also be full of events, including the starter area, Qingjie Island, which was a surprise to me personally, because I thought it would be more of a peaceful map that didn't involve much action, but that is not the case at all. There's a very good balance between peaceful things you can do to get you started in learning some of the basics, and also a lot of action and a lot of events you can do as you progress into the map. Of course, lots of those events can be soloed, but you will also have some events that will be really hard to complete on your own, and you will really need the help of other players with you. We did a chain event in the Echovold Wilds with the dev team. It was a lot of fun, and it had a good balance between being not too easy to do, but also not too hard that everyone will just die. When we were done with the chain event, there was a room full of chests which contained the loot. This is something that the devs pointed out, and they said that we should probably expect something like this to happen often in the End of Dragons maps. Something we take for granted as Guild Wars 2 players is the fact that having other players with us during the events does not mean that they will kill you or take away your loot, as we basically work together as players and all of us will get loot. And even if there's something like a rare drop, not only one player that gets it, everyone will have a chance of getting those rare drops. And this is one of those things we as Guild Wars 2 players don't appreciate enough. So if you are someone brand new to Guild Wars 2 watching this, you should know that Guild Wars 2 encourages players to help each other out in open world and group content. And whoever is contributing will get loot regardless of the numbers. You can help each other out by healing, or by providing support, or by simply smashing things and killing mobs. All of that will account, and all of that will enable us to get rewards and loot from the content we are doing. And it's because of that you will find Guild Wars 2 to have one of the best communities in any game or MMO, and you will immediately feel how friendly and welcoming overall the community is. Something that really impressed me was the starter area. I have already seen it before during the official streams, but experiencing it firsthand was something different. This is great for anyone who will be brand new to Guild Wars 2, or anyone who has taken a break from Guild Wars 2 for a time, or even some of the current active existing members that may simply not be familiar with some of the concepts. For example, in that starter area, they will teach you how to dodge and avoid damage properly. We're not just talking about a couple of dodges, you will actually need to do some effort, so you will actually need to dodge, use your blocks, move around and such. You will also find others teaching you how to break bar and apply CCs, and another NPC that will teach you how to use combo fields. Those details are not only important for new players or returning ones, but I also know of a lot of the current players who may not be aware of those concepts. And so seeing them in action in that starter area combined all together like this, especially if it involves some sort of good rewards, will motivate people to do them, which in turn will teach people how to handle the combat system in Guild Wars 2 in a better way. And it's not just the combat. In the same starter area, you will be able to learn how to do basic gliding, and you should be able to get the Raptor and Springer mounts early on. And those three things will help you a lot move across the maps, because End of Dragon maps are really big, and so this way you will not feel left behind seeing everyone else moving around you with those mounts and glides, and it will not be frustrating. So this is the perfect chance for anyone who will be brand new to Guild Wars 2 to get started, or if you have been taking a break to get back to it, because we will all start on the same level with the new content, and you will not feel held back by the lack of things you did not get a chance to do before the expansion. Next, we will talk about the story, and I personally am a very big fan of the Guild Wars 2 story and lore, so I really pay attention to those details, and I can tell you that each one of the maps is very rich in lore, even in the small details, like the ambient dialogue between the NPCs, how the events are handled, the runes and destruction around you, everything. If you are someone who played Guild Wars 1, you will have an even bigger understanding of what's going on, because a lot of the lore and the story is related to what happened in Guild Wars 1. So you will find yourself more familiar with the names, with the locations, but at the same time, the story team have done a very good job in making sure that even if you have not played Guild Wars 1, you will still have a very good understanding of what actually happened that led to the current events, so you will not feel left behind. And besides, the story itself is amazing, and it will be full of twists and surprises. Next, we will talk about the Siege Turtle. A lot of us had a chance to see them in action during the beta weeks, but let me tell you that seeing them in the End of Dragon maps makes you even appreciate them more and understand how useful they really are. For those who did not get a chance to test them, Siege Turtle is basically a big turtle where two players can get on it. One player that will control the movement of the mount, and the other player will act as a gunner, and you will have a chance to shoot mortars at the enemies, which will do significant damage. And both players will have more advantages as they progress through the mastery for the mount. Besides, it is surprisingly really fast, and it can go really high. I was really impressed by it, and I enjoyed seeing it in action. You will even find some events that will require Siege Turtles to complete, and in that case, you will find NPCs running around with those Siege Turtles, and you can get on those mounts. To unlock the Siege Turtle as a mount and you can use anywhere, you will need to raise them as hatchlings, which is very similar to what we did with the Sky Scale, which in my opinion is a good thing because it adds a bit more connection between you and the mount. But at the same time, from what I understand, the steps needed to fully unlock the Siege Turtle will not be as grindy or take as much time as the Sky Scale. I personally cannot wait to get one, and I know a lot of our people are very excited about the new mount and they will try to get it as soon as possible. Now, let's talk about fishing and skiffs. We will talk about both of them in this section because they both complete each other's. If you don't know what are skiffs, they are basically small boats that also act as a mount on the water water. You can get in them on your own, or you can have other players get on that skiff with you. Unlocking fishing and the skiffs will not be hard at all, and you will easily unlock them as you progress through the story. We already have a mount, which is the skimmer, that can also move over water. But let me tell you that the skiff is completely different, and you will actually find it more useful and faster in a lot of situations than the skimmer. You can even have masteries to make it more efficient and move faster over water, and even the players that will be with you on the skiff can cheer and do other emotes that will help you move even faster. As for fishing, you can do it on a lot of different water bodies. You can do that by simply standing on the ground and then using your pole to fish in the closest water body, or you can do it from the skiff. Fishing is very easy and pretty straightforward, and you will find a lot of visual and audio clues that will help you learn all about fishing much faster. You will find a lot of different kind of fish based on the bait you are using and based on the location you are fishing from. I have no doubt that fishing will be very involved in some of the recipes and collections we will get with End of Dragons. And just to be clear, this can be done on any map that will have water in it, not just End of Dragons. That also include guild halls, and we will still talk about the new guild hall in detail later. There were a couple of vendors that are close by that sold different bait, and so I imagine across the entire game you will have multiple sources where you can get different bait and different pools to get all sort of fish that will be needed for different recipes. You will also find fishing events and tournaments where players can compete against each other, and this will even give you more rewards. There is a heart in the starter map that will have all that you need to get started with fishing to make things easy for new players. Skiffs will help you a lot with fishing and even give you better rewards, because you can use skiffs to go deeper in the water and find more rare spots and get more rare fish. And one of the things we have been told is that you will get better rewards when you fish as a group. So this is something that will encourage people to get together and do some fishing, which is honestly a lot of fun, and it can be very relaxing, especially when done in the End of Dragons maps with all the beautiful scenes around you and the great music that goes with it. We did not get a chance to test Jade Bots for ourselves or see them in action. However, while we were doing events and activities around the End of Dragon maps, you could immediately see all around you how useful Jade Bots are going to be and how they can change certain aspects of what we currently do. If you don't know what are Jade Bots, you can think of them as a permanent companion that you can summon when you need them. However, you can also function without them, and you will not be forced to use them. They will help you a lot in navigating the maps, because one of the masteries will allow you to put personal waypoints any place you want in the open world. I still don't know too much details about this mastery, but I have no doubt that it will be extremely useful. There will be a lot of objects around you that you can interact with using your bot, and that will include some chests. They will also help improve your loot and junk a little, and even the currencies that you will potentially get from them are actually very useful. So as I said, in my opinion, they are going to change a lot of the current aspects we do in Guild Wars 2. I know for sure I will personally try to get it as soon as possible, and I will try to get all the masteries for it as soon as I can. Now let's talk about the new elite specializations. As I said previously, Guild Wars 2 has one of the best combat systems in any MMO, and one of the things I like the most is the fact that with few changes you can pretty much change your elite specialization and class and build to play a completely different role and have a completely different style. I didn't have that much time to test all the elite specializations, but I used Mechanist during the events we did with EoD devs, and it was fantastic. You can pretty much make it whatever you want. You can play some sort of a high damage bursty build and your mech will do a lot of damage. You can play as a condition build and apply tons of conditions and your mech can also do the same, or you can play some sort of a support heal, including alacrity, might and fury, and a lot of barrier to keep people alive. And this is not just with the Mechanist. You can pretty much apply the concept to all the other elite specializations. They are very versatile and you can tweak them to fit your own playstyle and whatever role you want. And this is one of the best things I like about Guild Wars 2, and specifically about the new upcoming elite specializations, because they are going to add a lot to the current existing ones and you will get a lot of use out of them. And now specifically for our ranges, let me tell tell you that you will get a few new pets. This will include the phoenix and some sort of a horse creatures called keren and white tigers. And something that was really a surprise, we will also be able to get siege turtles as pets, and they will even have their own weapons on board. End of Dragons will also come with new legendary weapons for all the current weapon types we have in-game. The looks and effects are based on the different Elder Dragons we have in-game. At the beginning, we will only have them based on Orin in terms of looks and effects. On top of that, all the legendary weapons will provide some sort of a visual effect whenever you kill enemies, and that is again based on the Elder Dragon as they currently represent. When I asked the devs about the legendary weapons and how we will be able to make them represent the other Elder Dragons, my understanding of the reply is that at the beginning we will only get based on Orin, but as we progress we are going to get different phases of those legendary weapons, and we will be able to make them represent different Elder Dragons if we wanted to. Each one of those new phases will come with its own completely different visual effect, looks, and finisher when you kill mobs. The way this will be done is that you get the main legendary weapon at the beginning, and then if you want to make it represent a different Elder Dragon than Orin, you will need to do some sort of a collection, and when you are done with it, you will be able to change it to represent that Elder Dragon. And I also believe that this will be on top of what you get with Orin. What I mean by that is, we start with them representing Orin, and then for example, we do another collection to make them represent Primordus, and this way our legendary weapons will give us the choice to represent Orin or Primordus all the time, and we can keep changing whenever we want. Maybe you can even have your characters sit on a different way for each one of the Elder Dragons. In terms of resources, making the main legendary weapon will be the most expensive part, but the other collections to unlock the other Elder Dragons will not be as expensive at all. Again, this is all based on my understanding from the discussion we had with the devs. I honestly like that concept a lot, because this pretty much means that yes, we will have the same legendary weapons, but everything else they will do is going to look different and feel different based on the Elder Dragons. And so technically, you can have only a few legendary weapons, but by doing a few collections, you can have the equivalent of multiple different looks and styles and effects and everything related to those legendaries, which basically makes them feel like completely new weapons. This will personally be one of my first goals, at the very least, to show our viewers how to get our hands on those new legendaries and how exactly will they work and how to progress to the other phases and such. The new guild hall, which is called Isle of Reflection, is completely different than what we are used to. It has its own story and lore, and at the same time it is tied to Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1 story, and I think this was really very cool of them. It's a very big guild hall and it just looks amazing. There's plenty of water around us, so you and your guildies can go fishing anytime you want, and this will also represent a new opportunity for those who like to do guild decorations to do some creative stuff on those water bodies, and the devs mentioned that they can't wait to see what our people will come up with. Claiming the new hall is also a much better experience than the other ones. The event to claim the guild hall will scale with the amount of people doing it. So for example, if you are only a couple of people trying to claim the guild hall for your own personal guild, you will not struggle and have to ask for help from others. You should be able to do it completely fine, and of course it will also scale up when you have more players. The claim event was pretty straightforward and very easy to follow. There was no teleporting or needing to waypoint around at all. There were no random spawn locations of anything. Everything was just pretty straightforward and very smooth. Even the bosses you will find inside the guild hall had their own cool and unique ideas, because you will find that they are based on the elite specializations we get with End of Dragons, but of course added a little bit to them, some effects and skills. The timer to claim the guild hall is more than enough to get done with everything, with even a little bit of time to spare. And so claiming it for any kind of group of any size should not be a problem at all. And I think it will very quickly become one of the more popular guild halls that a lot of guilds will use. Now, let's talk about strike missions, which in my opinion will be very important. As we do the story, we will encounter different bosses. Some of those bosses we will be able to fight later on as strike missions, and I also expect those bosses to have a couple of extra mechanics with the strike mission. End of Dragons will be released with 4 new strike missions, and we will be able to play them from the very beginning. Later down the line as we go, they will add challenge modes to those strike missions, and I also think there's a very high chance that we will get more strike missions as we go in the future, with their own own challenge modes as well. If you don't know what are strike missions, they are a type of group content that you can do with a 10-man squad. In concept, they are a little similar to raids, but the difficulty level is much lower, which makes it much more accessible to all kind of players, whether you are very casual, very new to the game, a returning player, or a very experienced and veteran one. I really believe that once End of Dragon launches, strike missions are going to be a much bigger thing than what they currently are. The rewards for them will improve significantly, and that will be the case for everyone, even if you have a very limited amount of time and you can only do them a couple of times per week. And from my understanding, the challenge modes will provide a little bit of a similar experience to current raids in terms of a difficulty level. So they will be a little harder than the normal strike missions, but at the same time not as hard as the raids. And of course, the reward for the challenge mode of the strike mission will give you better rewards than the normal mode. And this will include legendary insights, which is one of the currencies you will need to make legendary armor, which up to this point have been only exclusive to raids, and they were one of the components that made it harder for some people to get legendary gear. And so, as I said, I really believe the strike missions are going to be hugely important as we go, and you will find a whole lot more people do them on a regular basis. I really like the changes to the strike missions, whether they are normal modes or challenge modes, and the reward system for them. Almost all of the new content we just mentioned that will be released with the new expansion End of Dragons can be used anywhere, not just in the End of Dragons maps. And so this will completely change and add a lot to the current experience of everyone playing Guild Wars 2 in all kind of different modes. And this will help keep things fresh for a long time. With all of that being said, I am very excited for the new expansion. It will bring a lot of positive changes with it, a lot of new content and features. You will find a link in the comments and description to the official page where you can buy the expansion if you want. I hope you are as excited as I am about the new expansion, and I hope to see as many of you as possible playing the new content together in End of Dragons. I promise to provide as much guides as I can about all the new content with the expansion when it's released to get people started and unlock as much stuff as we can. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.